when I figure out, what type of seed I am, and I get there, the story is crazy. And I just want people to be able to go back and watch all these, almost like a movie.
Only thing I chase is Benjamins and I ain't got a flex. At the top they call me ceiling fan, hover over the rest. I can't flop or fall, I'm getting it focused up on this quest.
Bro, that's really how it happened. So when I wrote this song, I was like steady snapping like the cinnamon. No, what I responded to him like the cinnamon. So he was like steady snapping. I was like, yeah, like the cinnamon. So I was like, really, that's a bar.
Do you think that it's hard when you're pursuing anything? So you're into fashion, right? You're into fashion, creative design, right? A lot of times with fashion, creative design, depending on who you are, what culture you're in, it becomes a little bit difficult to maintain your integrity as a believer.
Yeah.
So as the song was playing, I was thinking like, do you think it's hard to maintain that in your pursuit of whatever goal you're going after? Do you think that that's difficult in like your space, whether that's music, creative design?
Yeah.
How is it to get that message across, but still be what people would call as cool?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of times that comes off like, that ain't cool. Or what's your thought on that?
One is foundation, which is God. I wouldn't even started fashion without making sure that God was in it. You see what I'm saying? Okay. I wouldn't have started music without making sure that God is in it. With that being said, I put crosses on my clothes, right. And I also talk about God a lot in my songs. And the next word is authenticity. I always felt like I've been kind of a cool person, not because I tried to be cool, but because I was authentic. There's things that people like about me that I never really tried hard to do. And that's how I knew that, you know what I'm saying, I can be able to grab or move an audience or be able to reach the people I'm trying to reach. I'm gonna say this right now, music and fashion, that's a gift from God. A lot of people don't understand or even know or are aware of the gifts that God has given them, so how can they place that as a foundation before they get started? Selling insurance. God gave you a gift to be able to speak to people in a certain way, and you knew that. So you use that to your advantage. Now people gravitate towards you because you're a good person and you still remain integral within God. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So like 2 words for me, bro, would be foundation and authenticity. Never change who you is, no matter for the fashion or not. Actually, one of my cousins a couple years ago, he was like, bro, your shirt's hard, but you ain't got to put the God stuff on it. I said, I feel you, bro. But honestly, God the one that gave me this gift, so he's going to be the one that take me to the next level. Right. You by yourself in that way of thinking is not going to take me to the next level because I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for God. So if I'm doing it for God, he's going to make sure that I reach the world for him. He's going to make sure that I'm provided for. He's going to make sure that everything happened according to his plan and will because it's a gift from him. This is the real test of stuff right here.
I've only had the breakfast and the brunch, so I don't know.
All right, so on your egg, how you like it?
Side note, y'all. We had Jay Christopher's.
Put him on the map.
Man, I don't know who put me on. I think it was my dog, Jay Wynn. Jay Wynn, you tapping in? Appreciate you. Me and my boy, Willie, and Trent and Z, we used to always come here. It's the little spot right down the street from campus.
Yeah, right.
So now I got a question. Mm-hmm. How are you in your life right now, trusting to see? How are you? Where does the Lord have you? Where are you at in your process? Or talk a little bit about maybe some of your struggles, or a little bit about how you're trusting to see.
That all came probably like the last 3 years. So I used to play football for like 16 years. So even going into college, I ended up getting a scholarship to play somewhere in Missouri. And then I transferred down to Tennessee State. But playing football, and that's kind of all that you knew or all that you was doing, you were pretty good at it. That's kind of all I knew. So one of my struggles was when I transferred, none of my credits came with me, like at all. So right before the first game, I'm talking about like 2 days before the first game, it was like, you ineligible by NCAA rules. I'm like, why ain't nobody tell me when I first transferred here? I went through a whole spring training camp and ain't nobody say nothing. So it was like instantly like shut down. Like I was like, so what I'm gonna do? I have no idea. Like, of course I have other skills, but I never explored that because football was always the main thing. So trusting the seed was taking I would say immediate gifts. God, in the past 3 years, God gave me immediate gifts. They told me I couldn't play football. I instantly just started drawing, instantly designing. I didn't know I wanted to make clothes, but I just wanted to be more creative because I never really tapped into that side, right? So once you trust the seed one time, or once you trust the seed at a point in time, now you have a relationship with God. You have a language with God. So now when the music came, I'm like, this might be something too. You see what I'm saying? Because I had already trusted the seed, I know what trusting the seed looks like. Now, I'm not saying that it's not hard. One of the most hardest things in this world is consistency. It's hard to be consistent at trusting the seed. Once I did it one time, I understood. You may not get it perfect once you understand it, but at least you know that you can work on it. And that's all God wants to do with our faith, is to continue to work on getting better as people, continue to trust him. So he'll give you more gifts so you can trust him even more. He'll give you trials and tribulations so you can trust him more. So understanding that is like, anytime God throws something at me, I have to understand the first place I need to go is to trust the seed. And it's like you said, the seed is me, the seed is you, the seed is all of us. So if you don't trust yourself in your relationship with God, you'll never be able to trust the seed regardless.
So you mentioned the language of God, right? When I hear that, what I think is you spend time with the Lord and he reveals things to you. It's like, all right, I'm praying, I'm in my word, I'm listening to the Spirit that's telling me things along my journey. Elaborate a little bit about what you meant by the language and if the language has changed for you.
Changing the language is in God's nature. And the reason I would say that is because I think I heard or was listening to a sermon maybe a couple of years ago, and they were mentioning the language of God, and he has to change it because you'll become too familiar with God. If you become too familiar with God, you get comfortable with him. You start trying to reconcile with him. You start trying to make deals with God, right? So he has to change the language so that you understand that he was always superior. If he doesn't change the language to me sometimes, then you can't grow because you only know God in one way. No, he wants to show you a different side of him. He wants to show you different communication from him. He wants to show you more of yourselves, but the only way to get that is for him to speak to you a different way. I don't know if I'm a good mathematician if I don't practice math, but if I only go to God for reading, I know I'm a good reader, but how would I get better at math if God doesn't talk to me in math form? So understanding the language and understanding that God will change the language should increase your faith, because as you enter a moment or a new season, you can expect God to change the language so that you can grow in a different area or form in your life. So I definitely had a lot of language changes, and I say probably over the last semester, since this semester, it's been a lot of different language. Like I feel like everything that I'm used to hearing from God, or every spirit-filled moment that I was used to having with God has kind of changed. It's like God has kind of forced me to go after him a different way. And I love that because now I'm growing into a new person and maturing in life as well. So
Shortly.
some more water.
No, that's it. Thank you. You also don't know what that fruit, vegetable, well, fruit in this case, what is that fruit? Once it grows, how many seeds can it reproduce?
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Because I once again, don't quote me, I don't know, but I'm assuming that every fruit bears differently.
Yeah.
Some probably apple trees might bear more than oranges. I'm just throwing stuff out there, right?
Yeah.
But in this metaphor of like, you don't know what you are, you don't know when, because like, yes, they're still not fully developed. So it doesn't matter if they're at point A or point B, they're not fully developed. But check this out though, when you get fully developed, what can you give to somebody else? What value can you provide for somebody else to grow? I'm only doing this so when somebody else looks at these videos and they're like, dang, he made it to the league. Like, y'all seeing his progression? Like, this dude is riding in a Honda. Like, you know what I'm saying? Now he riding it, whatever.
Yeah.
And yada, yada, yada. Or he was here and this was going on and, he's talking about he was crying, he was going through this. But at the end of the day, what's the impact gonna have? What if trust the seed made other people create their own trust the seed, but it became their own thing? Now it's like they're trying to be encouragement, because my story is not the only story that's been rough and had its ups and downs, and people have documented their process. I'm sure it's a lot of other people, but what if this motivated somebody else to move? Now, if y'all follow me, please follow my dog. It's still on your story, right? You have about what Doronnah is, right?
Yeah, the story of Doronnah.
Okay, so he has this great story y'all need to check out on what Doronnah is. It's not just a name. It has a real story and a meaning to it, right? Like, he's not just out here making cool names and cool designs because, like, oh, this is fashionable.
Yeah.
Like, granted, my boy stuff's hard, but that's not how it was set up. So you definitely got to check the story, and I'd advise you, as I ask him this question, for you to go back and to listen to his story before, as you hear him elaborate. How do you think that your clothing, outside of the story itself, provides value to somebody else? To me, this is a part of your process of trust and see your design and your clothing.
One part of the question that I'm gonna answer, I think I provide value based off the simple fact that I don't view myself as a greedy person. Let's say if we're on the topic of making clothes, bro, it's so much regular things out there that cost $50 through the roof, and they getting them made for cheap. I never even want to allow people to view me as a greedy person, so I'm the type of person that will have the designer brand with designer prices, but you can get that same type of content, that same type of fashion for cheaper. The people that can't afford the designer stuff, you don't gotta get it fake. I'm gonna be able to make it available to you. So I think my inclusion of everybody in the things that I do will be able to help see the value because they're included. A lot of people can't see the value in designer brands because they don't feel included. They feel like they have to be a certain type of person or have a certain type of money to be included when you talk about those things. So I think the value that I provide is something I mentioned earlier is authenticity. I don't want to rip off people for no clothes. That's not why I'm doing the clothes. I'm first of all doing it for God. But why do I have to rip off people if I'm doing it in a righteous way? You see what I'm saying? So like keeping that authenticity in every single thing you do will reveal the value. God will reveal the value. You don't have to force your value upon somebody. If you do, then that's not real value. It's like you trying to sell something to somebody and you got like a good cover on the outside, and then when you open it, there's nothing inside. I'm coming to you as myself. So you either receive the value because God allowed you to see the value or not.
Very simply, permissive will is what God allows us to do. Just because God allows us to do something doesn't mean that's exactly what he wants us to do. Right? And there's a permissive will that says, okay, I can do this, but should I do it? Is this what he wants me to do? And God's perfect will is the perfect design that he has for situations that we come in contact with in our life. An example would be the perfect will of God for everybody, right, is that we live in complete purity before we get married. Does that happen all the time? No. I mean, this will just be real. It doesn't. And some people do, and kudos to them. Right? Like, it's nothing, obviously, and we strive for that. But see, in my opinion, how I look at perfect and permissive will is not like this, like, oh, perfect will, good things will happen to you, permissive will, bad. No. The way I look at it is like this. I strive for the perfect with everything that I do. And I realize that there will be circumstances where the permissive will happen. Because you do have to realize, as much as you want to strive for the perfect will of God, you have to realize that's why grace was created. That's why he allowed us to run into situations and circumstances where things we do mess up. So that we had that grace in place for ourselves, so that we aren't left to just go to hell and have this thing where and by hell I don't just mean like the place hell, but I mean like hell on earth. Right? Like that we're not stuck in this cycle of continuously fighting these demons, fighting these problems, fighting these things that we all go through, but that we have something that says, man, I really had a really bad day yesterday, but like I woke up and I feel better. Right? To me, that's grace. If that was omitted in mercy, if the grace and mercy weren't here, we would all just be walking around miserable every day. And that's how I look at perfect and permissive, because to me it's just like I know I'm not, everything I do is not gonna be in this perfect world. I just know that, but I'm gonna strive for that thing every single day. And some days it may feel like I hit it, and other days it doesn't. But when you had an option, you obviously want to go to the perfect, because there's just more blessings and more opportunity and more peace, joy, and happiness. All the fruits of the spirit are in the perfect will, and there are some that come with the permissive as well, but it does come down to choice. So
but I love when you say you strive for the perfect, because I believe that's how we should all live. Where we're striving for the best versions of ourselves, but sometimes you get into a moment where you're just striving to be high. You're striving to be average. And you kind of know what I went through over the past couple of years, but I was just striving to get the bills paid. I was striving to be high. I was striving to at least get some in my belly before I go to, go to sleep at night. And you get comfortable with that real easy if you're not striving for more than that. I think me and my dad had a conversation. He was like, make sure at least once a month you go eat at an expensive restaurant. And I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, like that's cool. And he was like, the reason you should do that is because you'll always be pushing and striving for a lifestyle that you don't already have yet. If you go get fast food every day, that's the only lifestyle that you see in the future. But once a month, you go take yourself out to dinner and go spend a decent amount of money on some food. That is the lifestyle you're striving for. So as you wake up and you say you're striving for perfect will, you also got to wake up and strive for not necessarily perfect, but a better lifestyle as well. So yeah, that was something big that he told me, and it just kind of stuck with me. And that don't even just gotta apply with food, but go buy you something nice once a month. Go you know what I'm saying? Go have some real fun once a month if you are a real busy person. But it's just always making sure that you're striving for better and not just better.